So earlier this week, there was a pretty big story that came out from the Nintendo Wii Homebrew community with regards to the Wii Homebrew Channel apparent closure and demise. Now, this is something that I've been kind of actively just kind of sitting on and researching over the last few days, and I want to basically set the record straight about what exactly has transpired here, what it actually means for the community, and what it means for Nintendo Wii and GameCube Homebrew going forward. There's been a ton of news coming out of the Wii Homebrew scene, with the GitHub repository for the Homebrew channel being archived and made read-only, and as a result, many people expressed concerns that the Wii Homebrew community was being shut down completely. Now, this all started due to concerns from a developer of the Wii Homebrew channel who is known as Hector Martin. He also goes by the name Marcan online, who alleged that the developers of Libogc, which is the open source homebrew library that the Homebrew channel and just about 99% of all Wii and GameCube homebrew is built on, was using stolen Nintendo SDK code. Now, to be clear, this allegation is not new. In fact, it's not even the concern of the latest allegations that have come to light, that Libogc is using stolen code from a repository known as RTEMS. On Sunday, Marcan posted this message on the Homebrew channel GitHub page. This repository is archived and will not accept any further contributions. Like most Wii Homebrew software, this software depends on Libogc. After the development of the Homebrew channel had already started, we discovered that large portions of Libogc were stolen directly from the Nintendo SDK or games using the Nintendo SDK, decompiled and cleaned up. We thought that the least significant parts of Libogc, such as its threading implementation, were original, and reluctantly continue to use the project while distancing ourselves from it. It has recently been revealed that the threading OS implementation in Libogc is in fact stolen from RTEMS. The authors of Libogc just didn't steal proprietary Nintendo code, but also saw it fit to steal an open source real-time operating system and remove all attribution and copyright information. This goes far beyond ignorance about the copyright implications of reverse engineering Nintendo binaries and goes straight into outright deliberate malicious code theft and copyright infringement. The current developers of Libogc are not interested in tracking the issue, finding a solution, nor informing the community of the problematic copyright status of the project. When we filed an issue about it, they immediately closed it, replied with verbal abuse, then completely deleted it from public view. Now, there is more to read here, but you get the idea. Marcan's note caused much concern and panic in the community, with many wondering what this meant for the future of Wii Homebrew. And of course, many outlets were misinterpreting and in some instances providing incorrect information about what had occurred. To understand what we mean by the Wii Homebrew channel, if you're not familiar, back in the day when the Wii was hacked by fail overflow and the floodgates opened, an open source library for homebrew developers was built known as Libogc. This, for all intents and purposes, is what powers almost all homebrew on the Wii and the GameCube. So if you ever hacked your Nintendo Wii, or you do have a hacked Nintendo Wii, there's probably a good chance that your favorite emulator, application, USB loader, whatever it is, almost certainly has been developed using that specific library. The Homebrew channel is perhaps one of the most popular homebrew apps ever built, and it has only one task: to launch into Homebrew, and it's obviously widely recognized. Now, back in the 2000s, Homebrew was a bit of a Wild West show. For example, on the original Xbox, 99% of Homebrew was built and linked against the official Microsoft SDK. The workaround is that developers never publicly posted binaries. They would upload source code, however, and Microsoft didn't have any issue with this. However, allegedly, Libogc, the open source GameCube library, has some portions of Nintendo SDK code that was reverse engineered. In 2009, Marcan himself accused Libogc of saying half the SDK was stolen. Now, the thing is, I want to make clear is that this is not the smoking gun that people have been reading about. The Homebrew channel developers, including Marcan, have been aware that they've allegedly been using reverse-engineered Nintendo SDK code for years. The main reason that Marcan is unhappy is that now new discoveries were found in Libogc that alleges to have used code from RTEMS, which is a real-time operating system without attribution. Marcan reached out to the Libogc developers in a now-deleted exchange to voice his frustrations with it, which ended up with him now archiving the repository and making it read-only. Now, as of the making of this episode, there still hasn't been any official response from Libogc regarding the allegations. However, some of the maintainers have chimed in. For instance, Alberto Mardigan, who is a contributor of Libogc, said, "At most, Libogc can be accused of plagiarism, but in my humble opinion, even that would be a stretch, since we're not talking about some artistic work, but work of science engineering." Meanwhile, developer Wintermute, who maintains the DevKit Pro project that Libogc is a part of, said, "The official stance of this project is that we have no interest in litigating something that occurred 21 years ago." So let's get a few things squared away. Is this the end for Homebrew on the Nintendo Wii? Absolutely not. Can people still use the Homebrew channel on the Nintendo Wii? Yes. In fact, the Homebrew channel hasn't seen any real updates for years. I would consider it obsolete software at this point because it only has one real job, and it's been doing that correctly for a very long time. Making a big fuss that you're making your repository read-only was really only meant to signal boost the issue to a wider audience, which it was, and as I noticed, Oatmeal Dome had tweeted about it last week, which is where I picked up on the story. Now, does this mean that Nintendo is now aware that their code is being used in Libogc and will completely step in and stamp out and eradicate Homebrew on the Wii and the GameCube? Well, it's one thing to spend resources on wiping out Yuzu and Ryujinx and Switch emulation. It would be a monumental effort to completely eradicate Wii Homebrew that has a legacy spanning all the way back to the mid-2000s. And I personally don't believe Nintendo is interested in doing this, as it no way affects their earnings potential like the Nintendo Switch did. But that, of course, is just an opinion. If Nintendo were to try to take down Libogc and any software built against it, developers could simply move to a cleanroom implementation and nothing could be done. It would be the ultimate cat and mouse game, and I don't even think Nintendo cares at this point. Which brings me to my next point. There's already work being done to port Callistios, which is the Dreamcast scene's Homebrew OS kernel which serves as its SDK, to the Nintendo GameCube. While early, this would provide a completely legal way to play Homebrew on the Wii and the GameCube, even if that still even matters at this point. It also potentially means that some Callistios ports from the Dreamcast could end up on the GameCube or Wii eventually. Getting ahead of myself a little bit, but we're talking about ports such as GTA 3, Vice City, Doom 64, and Wipeout could all see ports one day, and that's pretty exciting. So for me, the takeaway here is that Marcan, although he does have some legitimate concerns with receipts, has only really brought to a wider audience stuff that's happened over 20 years ago. The reverse-engineered Nintendo SDK code has been known since at least 2009, and nothing was ever done then. So the archival of the Homebrew channel, in my opinion, is nothing more than bringing bigger awareness and confusion to a situation that's been in place for a very long time. And yes, the Homebrew channel is still available for you to download and use. Making it read-only serves really as no purpose, as the source code repository hasn't seen any meaningful updates in over 15 years. So take that for what it's worth. So hopefully this does help clarify what actually has transpired with the Wii Homebrew channel. Look, at the end of the day, nothing really has changed other than just more people have been made aware of the history of the Wii Homebrew community and how things have been kind of running over the last 15 or so years. But ultimately, I don't really want to sugarcoat this, guys. This is a big nothing burger. Continuation of Wii Homebrew is going on. The GameCube is still obviously continuing on with its homebrew work as well. And at the end of the day, I'd be very surprised if Nintendo is even interested in looking at this themselves. I don't really feel like this is something that they even care about that's on their radar, especially when we're talking about the launch of new hardware literally in about 4 weeks from now. But hey, they are just my thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you thought about the apparent demise of the Nintendo Wii Homebrew channel in the description below. And as always, if you like this episode, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.